Thank you for joining me today. I am Hawkeye, and this is Maple Leafs Man Advantage. And we're finally there for me. We're now getting into the 1970-71 season. All of those trades have been made. The expansion drafts happened. The amateur draft has happened. So we're now going to take a look at this season and see how the Leafs fared for the regular season, how other teams did as well. And as I said in previous videos, there's two new NHL teams in the league this year. The Buffalo Sabres, led by GM and coach, former GM and coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Punch Imlach. He's leading the way there in Buffalo, and the Vancouver Canucks on the West Coast. They're both in the East Division. So I'm going to take a look at those teams as well as everybody else in the East. So there's 14 teams now, so 7 teams in the East now, making it even more difficult, I guess, to make the playoffs or maybe to the original 5 that were in that division. Maybe not, but in the future, it's not going to get any easier to make the playoffs here. If it continues like this, it doesn't. They're going to keep adding teams, but here we go. We're going to look at everybody in the East. So we're going to start at the top in the East Division at the end of the year, and still taking no prisoners was the Boston Bruins, fresh off a Stanley Cup win. This is great. They had 57 wins and 121 points. Quite impressive since they had ties back then and no overtime. So if you tied at the end of 60 minutes, okay, grab a point, 1 point, and go home. The game is over. Quite impressive. They led the league in goals and they had 399 of them. That is 5.1 goals a game. Wow. Phil Esposito led the team and NHL. He had 76 goals. First ever player to score 70 goals was Phil Esposito. He also had 76 assists for 152 points. So he won the Art Ross. He was the top scorer in the league. He didn't win the Hart, though. Bobby Orr became the first ever player to record 100 assists in a season. He had 102 of them, along with 139 points. He was a defenseman. Um, he won the Hart as the MVP, and of course, he won the Norris as the top defenseman as well. He also had an unheard of plus 124 plus minus rating. Wow. A couple other guys, and Johnny Busick, he had 51 goals and 116 points. And Ken Hodge, he had 105 points as well. They had 4 guys with 100 points that year in Boston. Incredible. In that, the Bruins still had the 1-2 punch of Jerry Cheevers. He had 27 wins with 3 shutouts, a quite nice 9-18 save percentage, and 2.73 goals against average. And Eddie Johnston, he had 30 wins, 4 shutouts, 9.14 save percentage, and a 2.53 goals against average. The team had 14 hat tricks in the regular season. Wow. It was looking like the Bruins were going to be looking to repeat here as Stanley Cup champions. Uh, they had it going. In second place, also playing some great hockey, was the New York Rangers. They had 49 wins and 109 points. Dave Bolin led the squad with 36 goals. Walt Kachuk, he had 75 points to lead the team. And in that, you had the co-winners of the Vezina Trophy. Went to 2 guys. They were the goalies for the New York Rangers. So you had Ed Jacquemin, who was getting less playing time, but he was part of a good combo in New York here. He still pulled in 27 wins. He led the league with 8 shutouts, had a very nice 9.22 save percentage, and a sparkling 2.16 goals against average. The other goalie and the other winner of the Vezina Trophy was Gilles Villemere. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. It's before my time. But as I see, I think he was 30 years of age, but he was now getting consistent playing time in New York finally. He had 22 wins, 4 shutouts, a 9 point, a .919 save percentage, and a 2.30 goals against average. Some great numbers from both of the goalies in New York. In third place, it was the Montreal Canadiens. They ended up rejoining the group and they're off to the playoffs. They had 42 wins and 97 points. Yvon Cornway led the squad with 37 goals. Pete Mahovlich, he had 35. Jean Beliveau was still playing strong at age 39, and he led the team with 76 points. Real strong team there. Spread the goals around in Montreal, doing real good. In net in Montreal, it was this season. It started that way, and it was going to end that way. Times were changing. Gump Worsley's gone. Um, in net, things were changing. They had Rogie Vachon. He was still there. He had 23 wins, two shutouts, 914 save percentage, and a 2.65 goals against average. Phil Muir was there. I think he was a rookie, or this might be his second season. He was getting more playing time. He had 13 wins for Montreal, and a rookie named Ken Dryden came in late in the season and won all six of the games that he was in, and he would take over in the playoffs for Montreal in net. So there you have it. And the Leafs, they were in fourth place. They were back in the playoffs as well. They had 37 wins and 82 points. I'll get to them after I run through everybody else and take a deeper look at the Leafs. There you go. Those are the four teams in the East making the playoffs. So in fifth place, I think they had a good year. I think looking at the numbers and everything, that was the Buffalo Sabres. This was their first season ever. Their captain was Floyd Smith, who they just picked up in a trade with the Leafs. He was a captain of the squad, so that's good. They missed the playoffs, I got you, but they had 24 wins and 63 points in their very first season. Not bad, not too shabby for a first year team, in my opinion. It was the rookie Gilbert Perreault. He was the guy to look out for in Buffalo. He had 38 goals and 72 points. He had 14 power play goals and five game winners. So he was the man in Buffalo. He also ended up, as I said in a previous video about the draft, he also won the Calder Trophy as the top rookie in this season. In that, they had Roger Crozier, who they picked up from the Detroit Red Wings. He grabbed 9 wins and a shutout, as well as Joe Daly, who I think was in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. He had 12 wins and a shutout, as well as Dave Dryden. That's Ken's brother. He grabbed 3 wins and a shutout as well. So they had a few goalies working in Buffalo here for them. Next up in the East, it was the Vancouver Canucks. They were in their first year as well. They had 24 wins, same amount as Buffalo. They had a lot less ties though. They had 56 points. That's okay for a first year too. Not bad. It was Hal Leko. He was the coach in Vancouver and former Leaf. Orland Kurtenbach. He was the captain, veteran there in Vancouver. It was Rosie Paymont. He led the team with 34 goals. He is the older brother of future Leaf at this point, Wilf Paymont. He was the older brother. They must have played us with the same age, though, as Rosie led the team as well in penalty minutes. He got 152 of them. Um, yeah, there you go. So in net for the Canucks was former Canadian Charlie Hodge. I think, yeah, 37 years of age. He won 15 games. They also had Dunk Wilson. He won 3 games, I'm sorry, for them as well. Now, the guy with the best numbers, it looks like, was George Gardner. He had the best numbers in the net, but he also played half the time as the other guy. So I don't know if they turned to him late in the season or if he had an injury or what was going on there. Um, he had 6 wins, but he had a nice 911 save percentage. Um, but I will say this. If your save percentage is that and your goals against average is still over 3, defending is your problem. They're getting way too many shots on you. And that was what was going on. Goals against was the problem for the Canucks in their first year. They were ranked 11 out of 14 teams. in goals against average or goals against per game. So that was their big problem, Vancouver, and they needed to improve that in the upcoming season. So the biggest shock, I would say, I'm not sure what the rhythm of the heartbeat in the NHL was going into the season, but the biggest shock in the East and perhaps in the NHL was the Detroit Red Wings. They were not very good. After it seemed like the previous season they were back in the playoffs. I think they were in like third place or something. Um, they were looking good last year. They had Frank Mahovlich there. They were looking good. Um, this season they just fell off the cliff. They had only 22 wins and 55 points. They were worse than both the first year Buffalo Sabres and Vancouver Canucks. Um, Looking at the numbers, I see they were 11th in goals for and 13 in goals against. They were bad everywhere. So their goals have dried up and they couldn't keep the puck out of the net. It was rookie Tom Webster who led the team. He had 30 goals for the Wings and 67 points. I know Perot did that for the Sabres. Um, But usually it's not a good thing if your rookie is leading the team in goals and points. But Webster did that in Detroit. He had a good year, but Gordie Howe's still there. He's 42 years old now. He had just 23 goals. He missed close to 20 games, maybe 15 games in Detroit. That didn't help them out either. And they had traded away as the season went along, guys that they got from the Leafs, like Frank Mahovlich, and Gary Younger, who they might have been a better idea to hang on to those guys, but they traded them. Mahovlich to Montreal and Unger to St. Louis, where he would put up some really good numbers for the Blues in the future here. In net, Crozier, he's now in Buffalo. They still have Roy Edwards. He picked up 11 wings for the Wings. I can't say that very well. But they had to rely on a couple of goalies, or rookie goalies, and Jim Rutherford, who would actually had a good career in the NHL, but he's a rookie here. I think he's like only 21. They had to rely on him and Don McLeod. Rutherford had 7 wins. McLeod had 3. Um, I feel bad because I I'm not a Red Wings fan. I don't know if I've ever cheered for them, but I feel bad for Wings fans at this time because for like the next 13 or 14 years, they make the playoffs, but it's like once, and yeah, it's if I'm not mistaken, and the next 13 or 14 years is tough sledding for the Red Wings until they draft Steve Yzerman, and then it's not just him alone, but they start pulling themselves out of it and making the playoffs again. But this is tough sledding here for the Wings here the next little bit until the early '80s. So there you go. That's the 7 teams in the East. So from the East, going to the West is the Chicago Blackhawks, which makes sense. Yeah, they're the most west of the original East division, but my oh my, they're Vancouver is almost as west as you can get, but they're in the East. So yes, there's going to be some changes to these divisions again once we add some more teams to the NHL. And that's the 1970-71 season. But we're going to take a deeper look here at the Leafs now. And as I said, Dave Keon led the squad with 38 goals. He led the team. Norm Allman, he had 34. And Paul Henderson had 30. So they had three 30-goal scorers. That's not bad. Ron Ellis had 24. And 27-year-old Billy McMillan, this was his rookie year. He had 22 goals. And I think this was like a career year for McMillan. He had 22 goals. And I think he was on a wing with Dave Keon, if I'm not mistaken. And Ullman led the squad with 51 assists and 85 points. Ullman also led the team. He had 11 power play goals. And Keon led the team with shorthanded goals. He had 8. Yes, 8 shorthanded goals. Amazing. And he had 9 game winners as well. That's pretty darn good. Jim Dory led the PM squad. He almost had 200. He had 198 penalty minutes this year. Um, and there you have it in net for the Leafs. I'm not going to give it away. It just happened a long time ago, so everybody knows who they got. But the Leafs make a big trade. Sorry, late in the season or maybe around the deadline. But starting in net for the Leafs, you got Jacques Plante. They just picked him up at 42 years of age. He had 24 wins, four shutouts. These numbers are amazing. He led the NHL with an amazing 944 save percentage and a 1.89 goals against average. Bruce Campbell was still in Toronto, but boy, his numbers, they were like night and day with Plante. Plante was spectacular in net, where Gamble was he was really struggling in Toronto. I'm not sure why. He had only 6 wins. He had two shutouts, but his numbers were not so good. His save percentage was 882, not very good. And his goals against average was 3.89. So that's two more goals a game you would get on Bruce Campbell than you would against Jacques Plante. So there you have it. Yeah, and then looking at the stats in comparison to the rest of the league, Keon's 38 goals. He was actually sixth in the league, tied with Gilbert Perreault. Pretty good. Ullman's 85 points was also sixth in the league, meaning the Leafs had good offense and they had one great goalie hero in Jacques Plante. So there you have it. Things are looking good here in Toronto. I know Plante's like all these guys were talking about Plante's 42, Almond's in his mid 30s, but things are working here for Toronto. So that is good. By the way, this is incredible to me. Always looking at the leaders. Phil Esposito led the league. He had 24 power play goals, 16 game winners, and 550 shots. That's awesome. Um, he led the league in that stat in those stats. So what we're gonna do here now, it's very close to how the Leafs set up their team, but there are a couple of differences here. I will go through them. But here's the 1970-71 and the Toronto Maple Leafs squad. And I think I got the lineup correct. There's some differences here, but on the top line, maybe it's a second line. Um, you got Altman, you got Henderson, you got Ellis. That's a real good line. And then you got Keon in between Monahan and McMillan. Um, that's not bad. I still got Oliver on my team. He's going to be my third line center. And I got him with Spencer and Trache on the right wing. Um, Now, this was tricky because I had a lot of centermen. And Mike Walton's there, and I feel bad. He's not a front line center, but I got to make him one here. Um, and something's going to happen late in the season. Put him there with George Armstrong. I think this is George's last year, which is good. I didn't want to trade him. I wanted to keep him a Leaf um, to the end for him. But when Walton's gone, we're going to be able to slide Sittler in there, the first round pick from the last draft. And on defense, you got McKinney, Jim Dorian, Mike Pellick, Rick Lee, and Brian Glennie. Pretty young squad there, but there's going to be another trade here coming up, maybe in my next video. Going to talk about they're going to bring a veteran in here. So on defense, you got extras here. I see a lot on left wing, which is fine. Um, yeah, we still got Brett Selby as well. Liddington, new guy. Dupair just picked up in that trade for Tim Horton, if I'm not mistaken. So left wingers still there. Brad Selwyn on defense, the odd extra guy. And now I have Bobby Sheehan. He is, I was thinking I might have had to trade him, but nope. There's enough time there. He's that extra center if ever needed. Before Simmons shows up and after. If somebody's out of the lineup, you need another centerman. Ian's that guy. And in that, we got Jacques Blanc and Bruce Gamble going on there for you. So, whew, there's going to be some changes made to this squad in the season. There's going to be some big trades made as well. So this is a real busy year for Jim Gregory going on. He made a number of trades before the season and in the season as well that I think helped the Leafs out big time. So there you have it. So that's a 1970-71 season. Now, on my own team as well, as you may notice, Jim Harrison is not there. He's the odd man out at center. I'm gonna have to trade him. He was in Toronto for at least another couple of seasons before he jumped over to the WHA. But I'm gonna trade him to the Buffalo Sabres. Why not? Um, I don't know if this is enough or too much, but I think I could get a fourth round draft pick for him in the 1971 season. They've got three centers there that are good. Perot, Jerry Meehan's there, but I think I can get that out of them, hopefully, and Punch. Hopefully, he wants to work a deal out with Toronto. He's already made one, so or, yeah, getting Floyd Smith. So hopefully, I'll say that get a fourth round draft pick from Buffalo, and there you have it. So there you go. So yeah, that's the 1970s, 71 season. We're in the 70s now, finally. And we're going to keep motoring on with the Leafs. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and subscribe. That'd be great. I would really appreciate that. I've got some subscribers on here. Um, Maybe check out some other videos I have on here as well about the NHL and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And if you want to comment on anything, go ahead. That's cool. That's great. Love talking hockey. Maybe the Leafs. I know this was a long time ago, but whatever. There you have it. So until next time, go Leafs, go.